Welcome back to another video. As you can tell by the title, this one's going to be about sound deadening and insulating the roof. Now, I didn't remove or install the headliner. I farmed that out to a local upholstery shop so that I could concentrate my efforts on the sound deadening and insulation process. Before we get too far into the video, I just wanted to remind you to hit that like button, subscribe, comment, share, jump up and down, turn yourself around, do the hokey pokey, and then settle in to watch this video. Okay, I'm going to start out by talking about some of the things that I purchased for this project. I'm not going to talk about paint thinners and screwdrivers and miscellaneous sundries like that. Now, the first item that I purchased for this project was the KillMat 50 mil by 50 square feet, and I bought 2 boxes of this. The sound deadening mat is a beautiful automotive sound deadener. I used a single layer over the entire roof, and then I went back between the ribs and installed an additional layer, giving me 100 mils in between the support rib. The next item I'd like to speak about is the aluminized tape. This I used to mend the areas of the sound deadening mat that got torn, a seam, or a place that I wanted a little bit of moisture barrier. For this part of the project, I believe I used just about a roll of the 3M tape. The next item is the expanded polystyrene foam board insulation. Now, this comes in a 4x8 sheet, 1 inch, 3/4 inch, or 1/2 inch thickness. On this installation, I used the 3/4 inch thick board, and if I had to do it all over again, I would use the 1/2 inch, because in the rear duct area, the 3/4 seemed to interfere with the installation of the headliner just slightly. So the next product I used is a polyurethane based construction adhesive, and in this case it was a Loctite PL3. This stuff worked really well. Once applied, it held the foam board in place without any vertical support, and this stuff can be picked up at your local hardware store. Now, the next item is totally optional. Now, I've used it on several vehicles that I've owned in the past with success, and that is an expandable foam. And here I used it to fill in the upper right and left radiuses or corners of the cab that connect the roof to the quarter panels, the upper quarter panels. The next and final item that I purchased for this project was a set of rollers to install the sound deadening mat. It comes in a pack of 3 from Amazon. I'm sure you can find them anywhere else on the World Wide Web. Now, you don't have to have these rollers, but you do want something that will press down evenly enough to secure the mat to the substrate that you're installing it on. So now, with all that out of the way, let's get on to the installation process. You're going to find areas where you have overstretched the material and it has torn, and this is where the 3M aluminized tape comes in handy. This tape was also used to seal off the edges around this foam board, as you'll see later on in the video. The installing of this sound deadening material is really simple. If there was anything that I would advise you to do is whatever cutting device you use, whether it be scissors or a knife, use WD-40 on your cutting devices before you start, and make sure that you clean the surfaces that you're going to put this stuff on with some sort of non-oil-based cleaners, such as a naphtha, an MEK, acetone, or lacquer thinner. After a minute or so of photos and a little bit of video, I'll be back to tell you about the installation of the foam board. right, glad you made it. Well, now we're going to do the installation of the foam board, which again, just like the peel and stick, went pretty easy. I first started off by applying the adhesive to the foam board, spreading it out a little bit with a spatula, and then doing the same on the roof. Now, I will say this adhesive that I used worked really well, as you didn't have to have any vertical struts or supports to keep it up while it dried. Now, with that said, I did use the aluminized tape around the borders or the edges of the foam board just to neaten everything up a little bit and to assure its placement. As you can see in these pictures, the center console area was unable to be insulated or sound dampened, and because of this, there was a significant amount of heat that was noticed radiating from this area. Now, the next few pictures you'll see are temperature readings from the outside of the truck, starting from the back going to the front. These were interior, front passenger, and center console areas with only the sound deadening material installed. And as you can see, the temperatures directly in the middle of and around the center console were the highest. This next picture is the driver's side roof with sound dampening only, AC on, and driving down the road for about 10 minutes. This next picture is the same conditions, same place, but with foam board. The next photos are of the vehicle complete with headliner. It's been sitting in the sun all day. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and here are the results. Now, I saved the last job, the worst job, for last. Let me start off by saying, if you decide to do this job, make sure that you tape off and plastic anything and everything that could get dripped on. Now, I didn't do the very front of the truck or the very rear of the truck. My thinking was I may use those areas to run wires later on, so I didn't want to put any foam in there at this time. Now, as far as installing the foam in the cavities that I did small sections at a time. I would spray some foam in, and when I thought that it had enough, I would tape it off and then move on to the next section. And as far as tape, if I had to do it all over again, I would use something like a Gorilla Tape, and then after I was done, I'd just leave it. Now, invariably, you will get some on something at some point, and when it does, just let it dry. Don't try to use a chemical or try to wipe it up. Just leave it. Let it harden up and it'll come off really easy. You know, this isn't my first rodeo with expandable foam, and I thought I was being really careful, but as you can see in the pictures, I had some problems. For about 2 days, this stuff oozed out, even though I was being careful. So as far as expandable foam, the only thing that I would warn, caution, advise, make note of is take your time. This stuff is nasty if it gets on something. If you try to rush through it, you're going to make mistakes. So just take your time. This project is 2 parts. 1 is the insulation and 2, the sound deadening. After driving the truck around for a week or so, I have noticed an improvement in both heat and sound. Until now, I had not realized how loud the roof racks were, and the AC doesn't seem to be working quite as hard on these 100+ degree days. Something else worth noting that after completing this job, I immediately noticed the heat coming from the windows, which I'm sure was there all the time. It's just that now with the roof insulated, it's more prominent. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Part 2 will be coming up next, which will be door panel repair. Part 3 will be the sound deadening of the doors. Part 4 will be the removal of the old carpet and installing new. Part 5 will be recovering the front and second row seats. Don't forget to smash that like button and let me know what you think about my interior renovation projects.